Hi guys, welcome back to the Spurred On podcast. It's Wednesday, that means another episode of Tottenham Transfer Rumours. Let's take a look at who Spurs are interested in this week. However, before we get started, thank you so much for your support. Lots of people really loving that Max Rushton interview from yesterday, and also getting a lot of Villa fans in my inbox and comments because of the post-match review of the Villa defeat. Thanks so much for your support and for watching and listening. As per usual, if you are listening on your favourite podcast platform, please do come across to YouTube and give us a subscribe. It's at youtube.com/@BarnabySlater_ and vice versa. If you're watching on YouTube, please do go and subscribe or follow wherever you listen to your podcast, be that Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google Podcast, wherever. It really helps and helps me to create daily content for you guys. But let's get on with it. The Tottenham transfer rumours. First up, Jean-Clair Todibo from Nice, 23 years old, and this is where a pattern is forming. He is a centre-back, and it very much looks like the new sporting director alongside his recruitment team and data analysts are concentrating a great deal on our centre-back deficiencies, by which I mean we obviously only have Christian Romero and Mickey van der Ven as definitive first-choice centre-backs. After that, as we saw at the weekend against Villa, we're looking at having to play 4 fullbacks now that it seems pretty much like Big Ange has really shown that Eric Dyer isn't part of his plans. Obviously, Eric Dyer's contract comes up in the summer, and we are not looking to extend that at the moment. So I think if an opportunity came to get a few million for Eric Dyer in January, there is every chance that would happen. So Todibo, the French international, is interesting us. As I said, he plays for Nice. Also, Manchester United and Liverpool are interested in him. So that could be a fascinating one. In all of my recent Tottenham Transfer Rumours videos, there have been players who those clubs are interested in. So it seems like we're swimming in similar waters. Todibo has played twice for France. Interestingly, although he's now at Nice, he did get a big move to Barcelona when he was 19 years old. I think from his original club Toulouse. I could be wrong on that one though. But he went to Barcelona early, seen as a huge talent, huge potential. And then, as is classic with the young players at such a big club, he was loaned out. He was loaned out to Schalke and Benfica. Both of those loans came with options to buy at quite high prices into the 30s and 40 million euro mark. And neither of those clubs were able to afford to do that. So that's how he ended up going to Nice for 8.5 million euros back in 2022. Since he's been at Nice, he's really started to prove his potential. I like the look of this player. Apparently he's available at £39 million, which I guess is like a release clause in euros somewhere in the 40s or maybe 50 million euros. Obviously, that is a lot for a centre-half, but that is basically what we ended up having to pay for Mickey van der Ven. And if this is a player who Big Ange thinks could fit in as well as van der Ven has, then I'd be all for paying it. From what I've seen, I've taken a look at some of his matches. What I love about him most, Todibo, is these incredible raking, Toby Alderweireld-esque mid-range balls. He loves to play that diagonal, and that's something that could add another string to our centre-back's bow if he was to be playing. He reads the game well. He's tall and rangy, very comfortable running with the ball, which is interesting. What I say about Mickey van der Ven, he's not put a foot wrong since he came to Spurs and before his injury. But one thing I'd say is that he's not like a natural runner with the ball. He can do it, and obviously he's incredibly quick, but he looks a little bit kind of, limsy. I don't know if that's a word. Maybe I've just invented it. Whereas Todibo looks far more comfortable on the ball and also isn't afraid to beat a man with the ball if the opportunity is there to bring it from centre-back into midfield. He stays on his feet really well, which is something that I love all my centre-backs to do. Going back to Ledley King, who famously basically never slid tackled unless he absolutely had to. That famous clip of him chasing back Arjen Robben when he was playing for Chelsea as a perfect example. It felt like he only did a slide tackle on that because he really had to. Todibo stays on his feet well too. Intercepts the ball well, which means he reads the game incredibly well. And Nice are doing well at the moment, partly as a result of his form. Now, that's a good thing, of course. We should be interested in players who are playing well, but also on the negative side, that I think makes it difficult in terms of him coming to Tottenham Hotspur in January. Not only will it be difficult because Man United and Liverpool are interested in him, but also Nice are putting together a really good season, and if they're going to be challenging at the top of the French league, then it seems unlikely that he would leave in the middle of the season. So I'm going to just put a 6 out of 10 on this one. Seems like there are too many variables for it realistically to happen, but take a look at him. He's a good player. Like I said, just started getting caps for France. He's got a couple of caps for France, and I'm afraid we have to look down the road at William Saliba, who's a similar kind of player who had a lot of potential, was at Arsenal for a long time, went out on loan, and they didn't bring him back until they knew that he was going to be ready for the Premier League, and he is their best defender by far. He's a very good player. I hate to say it. Sticking to the defensive theme, our next link is with Jarrad Branthwaite from Everton. I have to say, I really like this player. I've got some Everton friends and family members, and they rave about him, say that he's potentially even better than John Stones was at a similar age. He's had a similar kind of route into Everton, was playing at a lower league club. Everton snapped him up early doors, and then he's been drip-fed into the first team. He's still only 21 years old. As I said, mainly a centre-half, which makes sense because he's 6'5" tall. He's played for the England under-19s, 20s and 21 team. So he's got all of that experience at international football early on in his career, and he's still improving. What you get a lot is players who have played in those England youth teams and they feel like they've already made it and they get a bit big for their boots, and then you never see them in the Premier League. However, Branthwaite is really starting to rip it up at Everton. Other than their defeat at home to Man United 3-0, they've been putting together a good run, and I have to say, Sean Dyche is a good manager to play for if you are a tall, strong centre-back who takes no prisoners. That's exactly how kind of Dyche likes his centre-backs to play, and I think Branthwaite is playing under the right manager for him at the moment. He's also had an interesting kind of few years at Everton. He was sent out on loan to PSV and got a lot of games in for them, which is good for his experience. I think it's good for players to get experience of playing abroad, kind of makes them more of an individual, learn how to be independent, stuff like that. I like him, really reads the game well. Obviously, he's good in the air because of his size, and there's a lot of clips around showing him of just winning header after header, but he's not just a big guy. He's not just a kind of Michael Dawson brave player, puts his head on the ball. He also is incredibly brave with his first touch. So many situations where he could just head it out first time, but actually he tries to take a touch and bring another player into the game. Obviously, I don't think he's necessarily going to be asked to do a lot of that, or is being asked to do a lot of that by Sean Dyche for Everton at the moment, because they're really scrapping, especially with that 10-point penalty. But I think given the opportunity under a coach like Big Ange Postecoglou, maybe we'd see a lot more of that from him, because I've seen a fair amount of it already, and it's good to see a centre-half who's so brave on the ball. He puts his body on the line, of course he does, intercepts well, throws his body in front of the ball well, gets blocks on the ball. I watched an Everton game here with a mate of mine a couple of weeks ago, and I was just like, wow, Branthwaite, really impressive. And he was like, yeah, watch out for him. Obviously, Everton in financial dire straits at the moment. They're still waiting for their new potential buyers to buy out the club. So is there a possibility for Spurs to kind of nick in there and do as we did with Richarlison and get him for maybe a bit cheaper than Everton want to pay? It's very possible. The other thing about Branthwaite, attacks set pieces really well, both defensively and in the opposition box. Has scored a few headers in his time, especially at PSV, and I really like that about him, because I don't feel like we're that strong at set pieces, either defensively or offensively. So Branthwaite, it's one I'd love to get. Obviously, there's a English club to English club tax, an English player tax, so it would be an expensive signing. I think it would be way more than we'd have to pay for Todibo. I'm not sure there's a lot of funds at Spurs at the moment, but we need to get more homegrown players through the door. So maybe it's a possibility, depending on how desperate Everton are for money this January or in the summer. The final rumour this episode is Adam Wharton from Blackburn. He's 19 years old. He's a midfielder. I've looked at some clips of him. I like him. He's got a languid style. He's got a wand of a left foot. You can only say it's a wand if it's a left foot. But I really like, he slows himself down when the ball comes to him. He likes to play in centre midfield. He can play in that 6 or the 8. But he'll get the ball and he'll kind of almost slow himself down. Whereas a lot of players, especially at championship level, especially younger players, they feel like they need to do it all at 100 miles an hour. I really like the fact this guy is so comfortable on the ball that he'll take his touch and he's immediately scanning when he gets his touch. As in, he's immediately looking around. Where is the pass? Where can I do it? He's got lovely 1 and 2 touch passing, but also great through balls, mid-range through balls, and can see space really, really well. I like him. He's a good finisher as well. He's played at England under 19 and 20 level, and for his age at 19, he's already played 32 times for Blackburn, scored twice. Like I said, a lovely 1 and 2 touch passer and plays those mid-range passes really well. I like him. Could be one of those where, as Spurs have talked about quite openly, we're not only looking for people to fill the first team now, but we're looking at possibilities for the future. And if we don't feel like our academy is producing kind of 6s and 8s who are that good at the moment or that confident and brave on the ball, then bring them in. We've also got a good relationship with Blackburn, of course, having bought Ashley Phillips off them recently. So this is one I see as potentially more likely. He's been linked around with other clubs as well, so it's something we'd have to get in quite early. But I like him, yeah. Maybe we'd have to pay, between 5 and 10 million quid, but it seems like one that I would be imagining Spurs will look to do. So I'm going to give that one a 7 out of 10. Not sure I did the Branthwaite one. I'm going to say a 6.5 out of 10 possibility for Branthwaite. Guys, thank you so much for watching this episode of Tottenham Transfer Rumours. Again, please do subscribe or follow wherever you're watching or listening. If you're watching on YouTube, please do come over to a podcast platform and give it a subscribe or follow. As I like to say, the podcast episodes each day will go up earlier than the YouTube episodes. YouTube will always go up at 5 o'clock. Podcasts go up earlier, sometimes even as early as 9 in the morning. So give us a subscribe and a follow over there, and vice versa. If you're listening on the podcast, please do come to YouTube and give us a subscribe. It's at youtube.com/@BarnabySlater_. Thanks so much, guys. And most importantly, come on, you Spurs.